My siblings said, we should split the inheritance equally, until they found out I was the only one mentioned in the will. The lawyer's office went silent when he finished reading. My brother stared at the mahogany table. My sister's perfectly manicured nails dug into her designer purse. I sat frozen, as shocked as they were. There must be a mistake, my sister said, her voice sharp. Dad wouldn't do this. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. I assure you, this will was updated 6 months before your father's passing. He was of sound mind and very specific about his wishes. My brother turned to me, eyes cold. You did this. You manipulated him. I'd spent the last 4 years caring for Dad after his stroke. 4 years of bathing him, feeding him through a tube, sleeping on a cot beside his hospital bed at home. 4 years while my siblings sent holiday cards and made excuses about being too busy to visit. I didn't even know, I said quietly. Bullshit, my sister hissed. You were alone with him constantly. You poisoned him against us. The lawyer cleared his throat. Your father left letters for each of you. Perhaps these will provide clarity. He handed us each an envelope. I opened mine with shaking hands. Dad's handwriting was shaky, but clear. You gave up everything for me. Your job, your apartment, your relationship. While the others sent flowers twice a year, you were there. The house, the savings, the business. It's all yours. You earned it. I looked up to see my sister crumpling her letter, tears of rage streaming down her face. What does yours say? I asked carefully. That we abandoned him, my brother spat. That we chose our careers over family. That we don't deserve anything. My sister stood abruptly. This won't hold up in court. We'll contest it. Dad was clearly suffering from dementia. The medical records will show otherwise. The lawyer interrupted. Your father had regular cognitive assessments. He was legally competent until the end. Then we'll prove coercion, my brother said. Undue influence. You isolated him from us. I called you both every week, I said, my voice rising. Begged you to visit. You had excuses every single time. When he asked where you were, I lied and said you were coming soon. My sister's face twisted. Don't you dare make this about us not caring. We had lives, careers, families to support. And I didn't. The words came out sharper than intended. I lost my fiancé because I chose Dad over our wedding plans. I lost my promotion because I couldn't work full-time. But I showed up. You showed up because you saw dollar signs, my brother said coldly. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad's hospice nurse. Check your email. Important. I opened it immediately. The nurse had sent a video file time-stamped from 3 weeks before Dad died. I hit play. Dad's face filled the screen, gaunt but alert. If you're watching this, my children are probably fighting over money, he said with a sad smile. Let me be clear. This wasn't a rash decision. I've been planning this for 2 years. My siblings crowded behind me to watch. The house, the business, the savings, all of it goes to the one child who put me first. But there's something they don't know yet. Dad leaned closer to the camera, his expression changing to something I'd never seen before. The inheritance they're fighting over? That's just the surface. What I'm really leaving behind will change everything they think they know about this family, about me, and about why I had to make this choice. The video cut to black. My hands trembled as I stared at the blank screen. What the hell does that mean? My brother demanded. My sister grabbed my phone. Play it again. I snatched it back. There's nothing else. That's where it ends. The lawyer cleared his throat again. Actually, your father left specific instructions. The rest of the video will only play under certain conditions. What conditions? I asked. He pulled out another envelope, this one sealed with red wax. Your father requested that all 3 of you be present at the family home, specifically in his office, together. He said you'd understand why when you got there. My sister laughed bitterly. This is insane. He's controlling us from beyond the grave. You don't have to go, the lawyer said calmly. But if you want answers, those were his terms. I stood, shoving the letters into my bag. Fine. Tonight, 7 o'clock. My brother's jaw tightened. You can't just dictate. The house is mine now, remember? 7 o'clock or never. I walked out before they could respond. The drive to Dad's house, my house now, took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of my mind racing through possibilities. What could Dad have hidden that would change everything? The business was a small accounting firm, successful but not remarkable. The house was a modest 3-bedroom in the suburbs. The savings were comfortable but not extravagant. What was I missing? I pulled into the driveway and sat there, staring at the white shutters I'd repainted last spring, the garden where I'd spent hours pulling weeds while Dad watched from his wheelchair, the front steps where I'd carried him when he could no longer walk. This house held 4 years of my life, 4 years of sacrifice, 4 years of watching my father slowly disappear into his own failing body while my siblings built their careers and families elsewhere. And now they wanted to take it from me. I unlocked the front door. The house still smelled like antiseptic and the lavender air freshener I'd used to mask it. Dad's wheelchair sat in the corner, empty. I'd been meaning to donate it but couldn't bring myself to make the call. His office was exactly as he'd left it. Mahogany desk covered in neat stacks of papers, the leather chair where he'd spent 40 years building his business, bookshelves lined with accounting textbooks and family photos. I walked to his desk and sat in his chair, opened the drawers one by one, client files, tax returns, office supplies, nothing unusual. The computer was password protected. I tried his birthday. Mom's birthday. Nothing worked. A knock at the door made me jump. My sister stood on the porch, arms crossed. It's 6:45, I'm early. I let her in without a word. She looked around the living room, her expression unreadable. You redecorated. I lived here for 4 years. Of course I redecorated. It looks different. Smaller. It's the same size it's always been. She moved to the mantel, picking up a photo of Dad and me from last Christmas. He looks so frail here. He was dying. You don't have to be cruel about it. I laughed without humor. Cruel? You want to talk about cruel? You visited him twice in 4 years. Twice. Once on his birthday because your husband had a work conference nearby. Once when you needed him to co-sign your mortgage refinance. Her face flushed. That's not fair. I called. I sent money for his care. Money? My voice rose. He didn't need your money. He needed you. He needed his daughter. Instead, he got greeting cards with generic messages and excuses about your busy schedule. You have no idea what my life is like. I have 3 children, a husband, a career. I couldn't just drop everything. I did. The words hung between us. Another knock. My brother this time, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. "Let's get this over with," he said, brushing past me. We gathered in Dad's office. 3 siblings who barely knew each other anymore, bound together by blood and resentment. I pulled up Dad's video on my laptop. The lawyer said we all have to be here. So we're here. Now what? My brother examined the bookshelf. There has to be a clue. Dad loved puzzles. "This isn't a treasure hunt," my sister snapped. "This is his way of manipulating us one last time." I ignored them both and opened Dad's email, scrolled through his inbox. Most of it was spam and client correspondence. Then I saw it. An email from Dad to himself sent the day before he died. Subject line, "For my children, when they're ready to listen." I clicked it open. The password to the next video is the answer to this question. What did I give you that you couldn't buy? My siblings crowded around the screen. What kind of riddle is that? My brother muttered. Time, my sister said immediately. He gave us time. I typed it into the password field. Incorrect. Love, my brother tried. Guidance. Wisdom. All wrong. I sat back, thinking, what had Dad given us? He'd paid for our educations, taught us right from wrong, supported our dreams. Then it hit me. I typed, forgiveness. The video unlocked. Dad's face appeared again. But this time he looked different. Stronger. This was recorded earlier, maybe months before the first video. If you're watching this, you figured out the first password. Good. It means you're working together. At least a little. That's more than you've done in years. He paused, looking directly at the camera. I need to tell you something I should have said a long time ago. Your mother didn't die in a car accident. My blood ran cold. My sister's hand flew to her mouth. My brother stood frozen. Mom had died when I was 8. My sister was 10. My brother was 12. A drunk driver, they'd told us. She was gone before the ambulance arrived. We'd never questioned it. Your mother took her own life, Dad continued, his voice breaking. She'd been struggling with depression for years. I tried to help her. Got her therapy, medication. Nothing worked. One night, she drove to the river and never came back. Tears streamed down my sister's face. I lied to protect you. You were so young. I thought if you knew the truth, you'd blame yourselves. Or blame me. And maybe you should. I missed the signs. I was too busy building the business, providing financially. I thought that was enough. He wiped his eyes. I lied to you about something else too. The business you think I built? Your mother started it. She was the accountant. I was just the face she put forward because clients in those days preferred dealing with men. Every success I claimed was hers. Every achievement. Every award. I took credit for her work and let her fade into the background. My brother sank into a chair. After she died, I kept the lie going. Built the business bigger. Made more money. Told myself I was honoring her legacy. But I was really just running from guilt. Dad leaned closer to the camera. The business is worth more than you know. Much more. But it's not the accounting firm. That's just a front. Your mother started something else. Something she made me promise to protect until the time was right. The video cut to black again. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. This is insane, my brother said. Mom killed herself? And Dad's been lying to us for 30 years? My sister was sobbing quietly. We never knew. How could we not know? We were kids, I said, my voice hollow. We believed what we were told. There has to be more, my brother said, standing abruptly. Another video. Another clue. He started pulling books off the shelf, searching behind them. My sister opened desk drawers frantically. I just sat there, trying to process everything Dad had just revealed. Mom had been depressed, suicidal, and Dad had carried that secret alone for 3 decades. Why tell us now? I looked around the office with fresh eyes. Dad had spent hours in here every day. Even after the stroke, he'd insisted on being wheeled to his desk, sitting here in silence. What was he protecting? I walked to the wall behind his desk. A large painting of a mountain landscape hung there, unremarkable and slightly dated. I'd always assumed it was just decoration. I lifted it off the wall. Behind it was a safe. Oh my God, my sister breathed. The safe had a digital keypad. 6 digits. Try Mom's birthday, my brother suggested. I punched in the numbers. Nothing. Dad's birthday? Wrong. Their anniversary? Still wrong. I stepped back, thinking, what 6-digit number would Dad use? What was important enough to guard this carefully? Then I remembered. The date Mom died. The date that changed everything. I entered it slowly. 041593. The safe clicked open. Inside was a metal box and another envelope. My hands shook as I pulled them out. The envelope was addressed to me. Just me. Why just you? My sister demanded. I don't know. I opened it carefully. Dad's handwriting again. You're reading this because you were the one who stayed. You were the one who saw me at my worst and didn't look away. You're the only one I trust with this. Your mother's business wasn't accounting. That was just the cover. She was a forensic accountant, specializing in finding hidden assets in divorce cases and corporate fraud investigations. She was brilliant at it. Brilliant and fearless. The month before she died, she uncovered something massive, a money laundering operation running through some of the wealthiest families in the state. She compiled evidence, built an airtight case, was preparing to turn it all over to the FBI. Then she got a visitor, someone who told her if she didn't back down, her children would pay the price. You, your siblings. They knew where you went to school, what route you walked home, everything. Your mother was terrified. She couldn't let the investigation go. Too many people would be hurt if these criminals continued operating. But she couldn't risk her children either, so she made a choice. She finished documenting everything, encrypted it all, hid it. Then she made it look like she'd given up, told the criminal she was walking away. And once she was certain you kids were safe, once she'd done everything she could to protect you, she drove to the river. She didn't kill herself because of depression. She killed herself to save you. The evidence she gathered is in this box. 30 years later, most of the people she was investigating are still in power, still wealthy, still committing crimes. Your mother's work was never finished. I made a promise to her the night before she died, though I didn't know it would be our last night together. I promised if anything happened to her, I'd keep the evidence safe until the right time. The right time is now. But I'm giving you a choice. You can open this box and finish what your mother started. You can expose these people and honor her real legacy. Or you can destroy it all and live your life in peace. I won't judge either decision. This burden was never supposed to be yours. The key to the box is hidden where your mother always found truth, in the numbers. Look at the client files from 1993. The answer is there. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry for everything I kept hidden. Dad. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the letter. What does it say? My brother demanded. I handed it to him without a word, watched his face change as he read, watched my sister read over his shoulder, her expression shifting from anger to shock to something like horror. Mom was murdered, my sister whispered. They killed her. She killed herself, I corrected quietly, to protect us. Same thing, my brother said, his voice hard. Those people might as well have pulled the trigger themselves. He looked at the metal box. We have to open it. We have to see what she found. We need the key first, I said, moving to the filing cabinets. I pulled out the drawer labeled 1993. It was stuffed with client files, yellowed with age. I started pulling them out one by one, looking for anything unusual. My siblings joined me. We worked in silence. The only sound, the rustle of old paper. Here, my sister said after 20 minutes. Look at this. She held up a file for a company called Meridian Holdings. The client number was 847293. That's not a normal format, I said. Dad's client numbers were always 4 digits. It's a date, my brother said suddenly. August 47th doesn't exist, but if you break it up differently, 847293, the year. That still doesn't make sense, my sister argued. I stared at the numbers, then flipped the file open. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note from Mom. The key is in what they tried to hide. Follow the money backward. I looked at the client number again. 847293. Tried reading it backward. 392748. Ran it through my head again. Then it clicked. It's not a date. It's coordinates. My brother grabbed his phone. You're right. 39.2748 north, somewhere in the mid-Atlantic region. We need the full coordinates. I looked at the file name again. Meridian Holdings. Meridian is a line of longitude. We searched the file for more numbers. Found them on the back of the folder, written in pencil so faint we'd almost missed them. 7685. 7685 west, I said. Those are the coordinates for Washington, D.C. She hid it in D.C., my sister said. That's 6 hours away. No, I said slowly. She hid the key there. This is just telling us where to look. I pulled up a map on my phone, entered the exact coordinates. 39.2748 N, 76.85 W. It pointed to a location in Baltimore, not D.C., a place called Greenmount Cemetery, Mom's burial site. The key is in her grave, I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. My siblings stared at me. We have to dig up Mom's grave, my brother said. No, think about it. Dad visited her grave every week for 30 years. He was maintaining something there, something hidden. My sister was already grabbing her coat. We need to go, now, before anyone else figures this out. Who else would figure it out? I asked. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Fear. If what Dad said is true, if these people are still in power, they've spent 30 years making sure Mom's evidence stays buried. Dad kept this secret for 3 decades. But now he's dead. Now the will's been read. Now people know there's an inheritance. You think they're watching us? I think we need to be very careful. We drove in silence, taking my brother's car. Night had fallen, and the cemetery would be closed. But my brother assured us he could pick the lock on the gate. Some skills from his misspent youth. The drive took just over an hour. None of us spoke. The weight of what we'd learned pressed down like a physical thing. Our mother hadn't died because of mental illness. She'd died protecting us. For 30 years, we'd mourned her wrong, grieved her wrong, judged her wrong, and Dad had carried that truth alone. The cemetery gates were locked as expected. My brother made quick work of it, and we slipped inside, using our phone flashlights to navigate the dark paths between headstones. Mom's grave was in the back, beneath an old oak tree. A simple headstone with her name and dates. Nothing elaborate. Dad had always said she preferred simplicity. I knelt beside it, running my fingers over the engraving. 30 years. She'd been gone 30 years, and I was only now learning who she really was. What are we looking for? My sister asked. Something Dad would have left, something hidden but accessible. My brother examined the area around the headstone. There's a loose stone here, bottom right corner. He pried it up carefully. Beneath it was a small metal container, weathered but intact. Inside was a key, and another note from Dad. I came here every Sunday for 30 years. Told you kids I was paying respects. I was, but I was also protecting this. The key opens a safe deposit box at First National Bank downtown, box number 1847. The evidence is there. Everything your mother died to protect. If you're reading this, I'm gone. The choice is yours now. But know this, your mother was the bravest person I ever knew. She made an impossible choice and paid the ultimate price. Whatever you decide to do with this, do it to honor her, not me. The bank knows you're coming. I set it up years ago. You just need to show them this key and your ID. Be careful. These people are dangerous. They were 30 years ago, and they are now. Dad. My sister was crying again, not angry tears this time, grief. She died for us, she said. All this time I thought she didn't love us enough to stay, but she loved us too much to let us get hurt. My brother's jaw was tight. We open the box, we see what she found, and then we decide. Decide what? I asked. Whether to finish what she started. We drove back in silence again, but it felt different now. Less hostile, more united. United by grief, by truth, by the mother we'd never really known. The bank opened at 9. We were waiting outside at 8:30, exhausted and wired on coffee and adrenaline. The manager, a woman in her 50s, recognized the key immediately. "I've been expecting you," she said quietly. "Your father set this up a long time ago, said one day his children would come for it." She led us to the vault, pulled out box 1847, set it on the table in front of us. "Take your time," she said, and left us alone. The box was heavier than I expected. I lifted the lid with shaking hands. Inside were files, dozens of them. Bank records, wire transfers, company documents, all meticulously organized and labeled in Mom's handwriting. And on top, a letter addressed to her children. My voice broke as I read it aloud. "My darling babies, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I'm so sorry. I wanted to watch you grow up. Wanted to be there for first dates and graduations and weddings. Wanted to know my grandchildren, but I can't, because I learned something terrible and I can't unknow it. And the people behind it will hurt you to keep me quiet. I can't let that happen, so I'm going to make sure you're safe. And then I'm going to make sure these people can't hurt anyone else's children. In these files, you'll find evidence of money laundering, fraud, and corruption at the highest levels. Judges, politicians, business leaders, people who present themselves as pillars of the community while destroying lives behind closed doors. I've documented everything. Every transaction, every shell company, every hidden account. It's all here. I wanted to finish this myself, but I'm out of time. They know I'm close, and I can't risk you. So I'm leaving this choice to you. Someday, when you're grown, when you're strong, when you can protect yourselves, you can take this evidence and expose these people. Finish what I started. Give the victims justice. Or you can destroy it and live your lives in peace. Either choice is okay. I'll love you no matter what. I'll love you forever. Be brave. Be kind. Be better than the world that made these crimes possible. All my love, Mom." We sat in silence, staring at the files. Finally, my brother spoke. "We have to do it. We have to expose them. Do you understand what that means?" My sister said. "These people have power, money, connections. They'll come after us." "They already came after Mom," I said quietly. "They've already taken enough from this family." I pulled out my phone, looked up the number for the FBI field office, stared at it for a long moment. "Are we sure?" I asked. "Once we make this call, there's no going back." My brother took the phone from my hand and dialed. "FBI, how may I direct your call?" "I need to speak to someone about a cold case. A murder disguised as a suicide, and evidence of criminal conspiracy spanning 30 years. They transferred him 3 times before connecting him to a special agent." My brother explained everything. Mom's investigation, her death, the hidden evidence. The agent was silent for a long moment. "Where are you now?" they asked. "First National Bank, downtown. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. I'm sending agents to you right now. If what you're saying is true, you're in danger just by having those files." 20 minutes later, 4 FBI agents arrived. They secured the room, verified our identities, and began examining the files. The lead agent, a woman named DeCarlo, went pale as she read. "Jesus Christ," she muttered. "This is... How did your mother even get this?" "She was good at her job," I said. Agent DeCarlo looked at us with something like awe. "You understand what this means? These names. Some of these people are still in office, still in power. Can you protect us?" my sister asked. "We'll do everything we can, but I won't lie to you. Once this goes public, your lives will change. There will be threats, legal battles, media attention. These people will try to destroy your credibility, your reputations, everything. They already destroyed our mother," my brother said. "They've already taken 30 years from us. What more can they take?" Agent DeCarlo nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure your mother's sacrifice meant something." The next 6 months were hell. The FBI investigation exploded into a massive case spanning multiple states. Grand juries were convened. Indictments were issued. The news media descended on our family like locusts. My siblings and I were placed under protective custody for the first 3 months, living in safe houses, unable to go to work or see our families, cut off from our normal lives. But we watched as the dominoes fell. A state senator arrested for money laundering, a federal judge forced to resign, CEOs of major corporations indicted for fraud. All of it traced back to Mom's files, her meticulous work, her courage. The media called it the biggest corruption scandal in state history. I called it Mom finally getting justice. Dad's inheritance became complicated. Federal authorities seized the business as part of their investigation. The house was searched multiple times. The savings were frozen pending review. My siblings and I didn't care. We had something more valuable than money now. We had the truth. We had each other. The day the first conviction came down, the state senator sentenced to 15 years, we visited Mom's grave together, all 3 of us. First time we'd been there together since her funeral. I placed flowers on her headstone, yellow roses, her favorite. "We did it, Mom," I said. "We finished what you started." My sister knelt beside the grave, touching the stone gently. "I'm sorry we didn't know. Sorry we couldn't help you when you needed us." My brother stood silent, tears running down his face. The first time I'd seen him cry since we were children. We stayed until dark, talking to Mom, telling her about our lives, about her grandchildren she'd never meet, about everything she'd missed, and apologizing for not being there when she needed us most. The trial stretched on for another year. My siblings and I testified multiple times, faced cross-examination from expensive defense lawyers who tried to discredit us, discredit Mom, discredit the evidence. But the files didn't lie. The numbers didn't lie. Mom's work was too thorough, too detailed, too perfect. Conviction after conviction. 32 people ultimately went to prison because of Mom's investigation. Hundreds of millions in stolen assets were recovered. Victims got restitution, families got closure, and Mom got vindicated. The inheritance fight became irrelevant. My siblings and I split what was left after the federal seizures. It wasn't much. The business was shuttered. The house was sold to pay legal fees. The savings were depleted by the investigation, but none of us cared. We'd gained something infinitely more valuable. We'd become a family again. My sister and I talk every week now. Video calls where we actually share our lives, not just exchange pleasantries. She tells me about her kids' soccer games and school plays. I tell her about my new job at a nonprofit that helps families affected by financial crimes. My brother and I meet for coffee every month. Sometimes we talk about mom. Sometimes we just sit in comfortable silence. We're not perfect. We still argue sometimes, still have disagreements, but we show up for each other now. The anniversary of Mom's death came around last month, 31 years since she drove to that river and made an impossible choice. We held a memorial service, a real one this time, not the lie Dad had created to protect us. We told the truth about who she was, what she did, what she sacrificed. The FBI sent representatives, victims whose lives were affected by the people she exposed, journalists who'd covered the trials. But mostly, it was just us, her children, finally understanding her, finally honoring her properly. I gave a speech, talked about the mother I thought I knew and the mother I'd discovered, the woman who'd been erased from her own accomplishments, the woman who'd chosen her children's safety over her own life. My mother taught me that some things are worth fighting for, I said, worth sacrificing for, worth dying for. But she also taught me that some burdens should never be carried alone. That family means showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I failed her in life. I wasn't there when she needed me because I didn't know she needed me. But I'm honoring her now, by finishing her work, by reuniting her family, by making sure her truth is told. After the service, we went to dinner, just the three of us. Ordered too much food and stayed too late and laughed until we cried. For the first time in 30 years, I felt like I had a family again. 2 months later, I got a call from Agent DiCarlo. "We found something," she said, "in your mother's files. We missed it initially because it was encrypted differently than the rest." "What is it?" "A journal, personal entries from the months before she died. I think you should read it." She sent me a digital copy. I read it that night, alone in my apartment, with a bottle of wine and a box of tissues. Mom's entries started optimistic. She'd uncovered the fraud, had evidence, was excited to expose it. Then the threats started. Entry by entry, I watched her grow more afraid, more desperate, more certain that she was out of options. The final entry was dated the day before she died. "I've done everything I can. The evidence is hidden. The kids are as safe as I can make them. I've told the criminals I'm backing down. They believe me, I think. They're watching the house, but they'll stop soon. They'll think they've won. I can't live with what I know and do nothing. I can't let these people continue hurting others. But I can't risk my babies. So this is the only way. The only choice that protects them and still lets the truth survive. I'm not depressed. I'm not weak. I'm not giving up. I'm making the hardest decision a mother can make. Choosing my children's lives over my own. If someday they read this, I want them to know. This wasn't their fault. This wasn't anyone's fault except the people who made me choose. And I don't regret it. I'd make this choice 1,000 times to keep my babies safe. I love you. All three of you. More than life itself. Literally. Be good to each other. Be there for each other. Don't make the mistakes I made. Don't carry burdens alone. Don't let work or pride or fear keep you apart. Be a family. That's all I ever wanted for you. All my love, always and forever, Mom." I called my siblings immediately, read them the entry through tears. We cried together, grieved together, finally truly understood together. Mom hadn't abandoned us. She'd saved us. And she'd trusted us to someday be strong enough to carry on her fight. We'd done it. Imperfectly. Messily. But we'd done it. The last piece of the puzzle came 3 months later. Agent DiCarlo called again. The final trial concluded today. All 32 convictions upheld on appeal. "It's over. You did it. Mom did it," I corrected. "Fair enough. But there's one more thing. We found an account set up by your mother shortly before she died. She'd been funneling money from the criminals, small amounts they'd never notice, into a trust for you kids. With interest, it's grown to just over $2 million. I sat down hard. "What? Your mother was protecting you financially too, making sure even if she couldn't be there, you'd be taken care of. The trust is being released to you now, split 3 ways. I hung up and immediately called my siblings. "Mom left us money," I said. $2 million. She stole it from the people who killed her and saved it for us. My brother laughed through tears. "Of course she did. Of course she found a way to make them pay for what they did to her." "What do we do with it?" my sister asked. We were silent for a moment. Then I knew. "We start a foundation," I said, "in Mom's name, to help families affected by financial crimes, to support whistleblowers who risk everything to expose corruption, to make sure other kids don't lose their mothers to criminals who think they're above the law." "The Morrison Foundation," my brother said. "Mom's maiden name." "Perfect," my sister agreed. We established it 6 months later, used the money to seed it, and spent the next year fundraising. The story of Mom's sacrifice and our fight for justice resonated. Donations poured in. Within 2 years, the Morrison Foundation was supporting dozens of families, providing legal aid, counseling, financial assistance, protection, everything Mom should have had, everything that might have saved her life. I quit my job and started working for the foundation full-time. My sister joined the board. My brother helped with fundraising through his business connections. We finally understood what Dad had meant. The inheritance wasn't the money or the house or the business. It was Mom's legacy, her courage, her work, her sacrifice, and the choice to honor it. 5 years after that day in the lawyer's office, I stood in front of a room full of donors at our annual gala. "My mother died to protect her children," I said, "but she also died to protect everyone's children, to stop people who hurt others for profit, to make sure the truth survived even when she couldn't. For 30 years, we didn't know her story. We thought we'd been abandoned. Instead, We'd been saved. This foundation exists because of her, because of what she taught us. That family means sacrifice. That truth matters more than comfort. That some fights are worth finishing, even if you don't live to see the end. My siblings and I fought over an inheritance we thought was about money. What we discovered was so much more valuable. We discovered our mother. We discovered each other. We discovered that the best way to honor the dead is to live the way they hoped we would, with courage, with integrity, with love. The room erupted in applause. After the event, my siblings and I went back to Mom's grave. We'd made it a tradition. Every major milestone we visited her, told her what we'd accomplished, asked for her guidance. "We did good, Mom," my sister said, placing fresh flowers. "We're not done yet," my brother added. "There's more work to do, more families to help, more corruption to expose." I knelt beside the headstone, running my fingers over her name. "I understand now why Dad left everything to me," I said. "It wasn't because I was better or more deserving. It was because I was there. I saw his suffering. I understood sacrifice. He knew I'd understand yours too." "We all understand now," my sister said. "We all carry it now," my brother agreed. We stood together as the sun set. 3 siblings who'd been strangers becoming a family again. United by tragedy, strengthened by truth, bound by the mother who'd loved us enough to die for us. The inheritance we'd fought over had seemed so important. The house, the business, the money. What we'd gained instead was priceless. We'd gained our mother's story, our family's truth, and each other. Dad's letter had said the inheritance would change everything we thought we knew. He was right. It changed everything, but not in the way any of us expected. We didn't just inherit money or property. We inherited responsibility, purpose, legacy. We inherited the burden of truth and the power to use it for good. We inherited each other, and that was worth more than any amount of money could ever be. As we left the cemetery that evening, my brother put his arm around my shoulder. My sister took my hand. "Same time next month?" my brother asked. "Sunday dinner? I'll bring dessert," my sister said. "I'll cook," I offered. Such simple words, such ordinary plans. But for us, they meant everything. They meant we'd learned what Mom tried to teach us, what Dad tried to preserve, what we'd almost lost forever. That family isn't just biology. It's choice. It's showing up. It's being there when it matters. It's sacrifice and forgiveness and love. We'd spent years apart, years angry, years blaming each other for things that weren't anyone's fault. But we'd found our way back, not because of an inheritance, not because of money, because of the truth, and because Mom's sacrifice deserved to be honored by children who loved each other the way she'd loved us. Enough to fight for each other, enough to show up for each other, enough to be a family, not a perfect family. We still argued, still disagreed, still drove each other crazy sometimes, but we were there, we were present, we were trying, and that's what Mom had died for. Not just our physical safety, our souls, our ability to love and be loved, our ability to be a family. 3 months later, I got a call from a woman I didn't know. "Is this about my mother's case?" she asked, voice trembling. "I found your foundation online. My mother discovered fraud at her company. She reported it. They fired her. Now they're threatening to sue her for defamation. She's losing everything, her savings, her reputation, her health." I listened as she described the situation, heard the fear in her voice, the desperation. "We'll help," I said immediately. "Email me the details. We have lawyers who specialize in whistleblower protection, financial counselors who can help, support groups." "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you so much. I can't lose my mother. I can't." I hung up and sat in silence, tears running down my face. This was why we'd done it. Why we'd exposed Mom's killers. Why we'd started the foundation. Why we kept fighting. So other daughters wouldn't lose their mothers. So other families wouldn't be destroyed by corruption. So truth would have a chance against power. We couldn't save Mom, but we could save others. We couldn't bring her back, but we could honor what she died for. That night, I drafted an email to my siblings, told them about the case, asked for their input. They responded within minutes, both saying the same thing. Whatever it takes, we help, because that's what family does. We show up, we fight, we protect, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, just like Mom taught us. The case took 8 months to resolve, but we won. The woman was vindicated. The company was exposed. Justice was served. Another family stayed together. Another mother stayed with her children. Another truth survived. I added her file to my desk drawer, next to dozens of others. Families we'd helped, lives we'd changed, truths we'd protected. All because of Mom. All because she'd been brave enough to fight, smart enough to preserve the evidence, loving enough to choose her children's lives over her own, and because Dad had been faithful enough to keep her secret, patient enough to wait for the right time, wise enough to know that the inheritance that mattered most wasn't money. It was truth. It was purpose. It was family. The inheritance we'd fought over in that lawyer's office had seemed like the end of something, the final division of Dad's legacy, the last piece of our family's story. Instead, it had been the beginning of understanding, of unity, of purpose, the beginning of honoring the mother we'd lost and the father who'd protected us, the beginning of becoming the family they'd hoped we'd be. Not perfect, not easy, but present, committed, together. That was the real inheritance. Not the money or property, not the business or the house. The inheritance was love, sacrifice, truth, family. And it was worth more than anything we'd ever imagined fighting for. 10 years after that day in the lawyer's office, I stood at a podium accepting an award on behalf of the Morrison Foundation. "This foundation exists because 3 siblings learned what matters most," I said. "Not wealth, not success, not even justice, though that's important. What matters most is showing up for each other, honoring those who came before us, fighting for truth even when it costs us everything. My mother gave her life for truth. My father spent 30 years protecting it. My siblings and I almost destroyed it all by fighting over money we didn't need. But we learned, we grew, we changed. And now hundreds of families have stayed together because of what my mother started and what we continued. Hundreds of truths have been told. Hundreds of wrongs have been righted. That's the real inheritance. Not money, not property. The inheritance is impact, legacy, love. And it's one we're honored to share with everyone who supports this foundation. The audience stood and applauded. Among them, I saw my sister wiping tears, my brother beaming with pride. After the ceremony, we drove to Mom's grave together. Another tradition, another way of keeping her close. We did it, Mom, I said, kneeling beside her headstone. We finished what you started, and we're going to keep going. Forever, my sister added. However long it takes, my brother agreed. We stayed until the stars came out, talking, remembering, planning, a family reunited by loss and forged by truth. The inheritance Dad left me hadn't just been money or property. It had been the key to understanding, the catalyst for change, the beginning of everything that mattered. And I'd never been more grateful for an inheritance in my life, not for what it gave me, but for what it taught me, what it revealed, what it made possible. The inheritance wasn't the end of our family's story. It was the beginning of our family's redemption, and that made all the difference.